For today's session, we have one agenda item. It is a discussion with the Montgomery County Public Schools and leadership and the Montgomery County Board of Education in regards to serious and significant allegations against a school principal and the promotion process and recently released report that came out on that process, as well as current policies and action steps related to employee misconduct and the promotion process itself. As a father of MCPS students, as the chair of this committee, as a council member, as a former MCPS student, we are all deeply troubled by the allegations, as I know is the board and MCPS, and those are being investigated thoroughly, and we'll hear more about that later. I'm hopeful that the results of the investigations bring better clarity on what changes need to happen to ensure all of our educators, students, and school employees are safe. This is a moment, though, that is required. The public demands openness and transparency. They are concerned, rightfully so, about what has happened. And they want to know what is happening to fix and address the problem.
I am here today to provide an update on where things stand regarding the investigation of the promotion of an MCPS principal and the extremely troubling reported allegations. The board understands how important it is that we correct this action for our students, our families, and our staff. Dr. Beidleman was promoted while he was being investigated by MCPS key decision makers. While he was being investigated because key decision makers did not exercise enough diligence to ascertain important details of the investigation. Specifically, multiple members of the administration who were part of the promotion process knew that Dr. Beidleman was under an active investigation at the time of his promotion. After the promotion, key MCPS leaders failed to take any remedial action and failed to promptly notify the board once they knew specific details about the allegations against the principal and the result of the investigation. MCPS's promotion process does not have a mechanism to automatically identify whether a candidate for a promotion or a transfer is under investigation. All formal complaints relevant to the investigation were investigated and addressed by MCPS. There is evidence of long-standing practices and processes in place that resulted in anonymous and informal complaints not being formally investigated.
I see that there's an opportunity for us to bring in internal stakeholders, staff, external stakeholders, and most importantly, experts, which we have many of right here in Montgomery County, who have lended their support to have us objectively look at our processes and procedures. So, as we look at this appointments process and implement improvements, as well as every other process moving forward involving investigations, complaint processes, and everything else, I assure to you that we're going to have a community of we're going to call them a collaborative community of practice team. And that team will represent all of those stakeholders that I mentioned, experts in these areas, who will help us have better processes and develop those processes alongside us moving forward.
Obviously, this is sobering and awful on many different levels, and I worked in a large government bureaucracy for 12 years, and how these gaps existed is just unconscionable. That one was not able to refer to the other something as basic as an egregious complaint as the one that was being investigated, and apparently others that have been made but nobody seemed to know about or know how to track. It's unbelievable. And consequently, and not surprisingly, trust has really been eroded on many different levels from many different stakeholders at a time that is of supreme difficulty for our school system, when we are hemorrhaging faculty, staff, and personnel because of all of the issues we've faced the last few years and struggling to recruit. And I think all of us acknowledge the importance of our school system, and all of us support ensuring its success. We're all on the same team. And I know you all are as disturbed about this as I am. How do we know with certainty that upon completion of those investigations that people will be held consequentially for what they have done.
This has been a very difficult pill to swallow and egregious when you think about the responsibility that we, the Board of Education, now have in that process. So I believe the complaint process is going to be thoroughly reviewed again by Ms. Marzi in her office. And based on the findings of that investigation on our formal complaint process, I believe there will be many things that will come about that gives us clear direction in how we proceed moving forward, and most importantly, anything that we need to do to correct any former issues. And the first step in that is making clear to all of our employees, if you have a complaint, present, today, whatever it may be, please let us know so that we are able to look into that.
And according to the Washington Post, educators and others have made formal complaints about the principal 18 times in 7 years. How many people have to come forward and say, "Me too," until something is done? So this situation has left all of us with a lot of questions and anger. Anger that sexual harassment claims were brought forward, and either these women were not heard or they were ignored. Those are the options that were before them. And so the public wants to know. It's why Councilmember Luedtke and I wrote a letter asking for the Inspector General to immediately begin an independent investigation. This required an independent investigation from the beginning. Our teachers deserved it, our students deserve it, and the community deserves it. I only have one question for the superintendent and president. In the Jackson-Lewis report, it states that after searching MCPS's email servers, it did not find these emails I've referenced, that it was not found and so in the inboxes. So I've heard, and I'm asking, is it true that emails sent to the board or to senior MCPS leadership are automatically deleted after a period of time?
But I believe that there is a, they're not there indefinitely. There is a period of time after which all emails are deleted.
Yes, Councilmember Glass, it is exactly 1 year in which emails are deleted.
If emails are deleted after 1 year, we just don't have any recording of how many more emails have been sent over the last number of years about this principal or about any other employee at MCPS, which is tragic.
My perspective of why the Washington Post learned about these allegations around the same time that the board apparently did, and perhaps the superintendent as well, is because people didn't feel safe going to the people in power, using the processes that you had in place. And when marginalized people feel like there is a power imbalance, they don't go to the people in power who they feel threatened by and a process they feel threatened by. They go to the press. They go to a place where they are emboldened and they are empowered. And so the failure here is in the system that did not have itself set up to take seriously, to investigate, and to take action on those complaints, anonymous and otherwise. And I have found in multiple circumstances in individual schools and broadly this idea of not treating anonymous complaints the same way. And organizations that care about a culture of accountability and transparency treat anonymous complaints the same. They look inward. And organizations that don't treat anonymous complaints the same way don't want to look inward, don't want to make changes. And the definition of bureaucracy that I've heard time and time again is an organization that would rather fail than change. And we have to make sure that MCPS is not that type of bureaucracy, and I just call on you to make the changes here, to make the changes so that we don't continue to fail students and teachers in this regard.
As a council member, this incident really amplifies my frustration of our various roles. This body is responsible for funding MCPS, but we are powerless to make substantive changes within the system. We have no details about this incident, and we're not privy to the facts. Yet we're called upon to blindly fund budget requests year after year without transparency. And I find that very frustrating in trying to restore the public's trust. And there are so many layers to this incident. Many have mentioned it already. the reported abuse of power by the principal in question, the suspected abuse of position by one or more senior staff in covering up what was happening, the many complaints, and allowing and perhaps even facilitating promotion of this individual. The lack of oversight to ensure checks and balances, and equally important, and what we're now focusing on, is identifying and implementing necessary changes to be made in order to make sure that this never happens again.
And seeing this play out has been really heartbreaking. I have two questions, and one of them is actually based on my experience as a mom in NCPS. But my first question, just because it hasn't been very clear here, it's have you ever, and it doesn't have to be just for the superintendent McKnight, but it could be for the president of the board, just because you, Carla, you've been there for so many years. Have you ever interviewed a candidate for a promotion knowing that this person has been investigated or is under investigation? Has that ever happened? That you have been told, this is a candidate, but this is also she or he is being investigated?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so that's a problem for me. And as you evaluate your process, that question needs to be asked. I've been in so many boards and in so many positions, including this one, and there has never been a candidate coming in front of me when this question, is this person under review for an investigation? And the fact that you're saying no, it's a huge problem.
We called this hearing the spirit of we all want the same thing and we want to improve, but part of, again, I'll emphasize the process of improvement is transparency and feedback from all stakeholders. And there is no institution in Montgomery County that is more inclusive of all stakeholders than MCPS. And so that just means we're all a part of the solution too.
I just want to reiterate, the board is committed in getting this right. This impacted us greatly. It's impacting the school system. We should be talking about our literacy gains. Instead, we're here,
Right.
which is regrettable. But I can't emphasize enough, we are in this to get it right.
Anytime we have to talk about issues like this, it's difficult, but the board and I stand as committed partners because, as we say all the time, we can't do this work alone, so I want to thank you. I look forward to our continued sessions coming with council. This is a very serious matter, and I know that our role coming today was to be able to share what we are doing and what we will do in the future to address that, but I cannot reiterate that enough. And know that I am committed to making those necessary changes as soon as possible so that we can work in a structure that makes everyone feel comfortable, and most importantly, we all walk away feeling more prideful about our school system and what we have in place.
I think it's important to know any staff member, it's 25,000. If you don't feel comfortable, you got multiple alleys and runways here to make a complaint. We gave and worked with the OIG to have more authority around education because it's such an important part of our budget. So I really appreciate that. The hotline is
240-777-7280 is our main line, or it's 240-777-7644. But obviously Google is everyone's friend, so if you put in OIG Montgomery County, you will come to our website, and it is the very first thing you see.